What's up, everybody? It's Brian and Cody here for Fourth and Dynasty on the Dynasty Pros YouTube page, podcast, whatever you're listening, however you're consuming us. We're glad you're here. 4 weeks in the books. And Cody, I don't really care to ask you how you're feeling. You're 4-0. Sam Darnold's taking you to the promised land. Get off it. Some of us are struggling at 2-2 with our NFL teams, probably even our fantasy teams. And, just look at that smug face, folks. Oh, just can't even look at him.
Do you want to borrow my brick?
God, your stupid brick. You're freaking.
I can put Colts on it if you want.
It's still so much cooler than a towel, though. I'll give you that. The
I have
Steelers
that too,
thing.
Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, but you're not your.
But it's not the actual.
Ugh. Nobody likes that. Sorry, Pittsburgh. So, what's up with this year, man? It's been a little bonkers. We're gonna break into a few buy sells here, kind of the headlines of the last couple of weeks, and then of course some reaction. What's your biggest takeaway so far?
I mean, obviously the Vikings being at the top of the NFC, no one was predicting that. Even I didn't predict that, even though I wanted them to be. I did say, though, however, that KOC is better with quarterbacks than we think, and now it's showing. Obviously, he shouldn't be doubted anymore. It's. I mean, we got other things along the ways. I thought everyone's praising the Bills, but I still think they can be better.
The Ravens kind of, I think they showed that hole in the Bills that we saw last year.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next quarter of the season plays out. I think this will be very telling. And in that regard, before we start, if the Vikings are 8-2 or 7-2, do you start thinking about signing Sam Darnold long term?
No way. You got JJ. He's what, 21?
I know. This is the Case Keenum effect. The Case Keenum year when we were really good. People are going to start thinking that. Just watch the headlines. It's coming.
I was mulling over what was it? Just yesterday. JJ McCarthy should be taking over the helm for the Vikings. Sam Darnold will hit free agency. What if Aaron Rodgers retires? Whether they win, they lose, whatever happens. What if he retires and the Jets are now in the market for a quarterback? Not necessarily at the top of the draft to draft one. Would they pick up Sam Darnold?
I doubt it.
There's no way, right? There's no freaking way.
But there's still a chance, right?
If you get a competent head coach and OC in there, you never know. It's
true.
No, it's ridiculousness. Ridiculousness.
So,
let's go ahead and start off.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go for it.
Yeah, we got some headlines again for this year. And, I want to highlight one guy and all the people that have stuck by him for the last 3 years now. That's the Brian Robinson truthers, because I am one. Let's stand up and give ourselves a round of applause, because he might be a legitimate league winner this year. What are your thoughts?
It's funny. I saw you say that or put that in the doc, and moments after I read that in the show doc, I saw that injury blip where Brian Robinson didn't practice today. I was like, oh my God, we just cursed him. So he sat out practice with a knee injury today. We don't really know how rough that is at this point when we're recording, but I mean, you've seen the jokes. People that accidentally drafted Brian Robinson over Bijan Robinson.
They're happy right now.
You're not upset. I mean, it was horrible value. You could have taken him in the second, third, fourth. But, I mean, overall, the player that you have, not mad at that.
I mean, we got to think of some of his value, too. Some people, including me in redrafts, you were getting Brian Robinson in the 10th and 11th round. So it's if I'm getting the last starting running back, you're like, okay, I just need depth. And now he's being your RB1. You're very happy with that outcome. So and I don't think it's going to stop, because now we have 4 weeks of sample. Cliff Kingsbury and obviously Jaden Daniels have found a good system, and Brian Robinson's a huge part of that.
That's I love seeing Cliff here. All the hate that I have for Cliff, he's a terrible head coach. Absolutely is. There's 5 or 6 of them that, don't get me started. I'll go on the rant. I'll do it. But Cliff, yeah, he's a good OC. He gets some points. He likes to, a lot of fast-paced. And we love that for fantasy. So right now, between that and the skills of Jaden Daniels, they're making some magic up there.
So the next headline it might be a controversial one. in a
Nope,
lot of people's signs. But
not here.
I didn't know Garrett Wilson turned into Chris Olave in regards to why is he having so many duds?
I don't think he did. I think he has been that the entire time, but we've just been trying to make excuses because I mean, I guess I'm not really sure. He did take home Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite Olave possibly looking better in the metrics. Like, I remember that conversation we had 2 years ago
Yep.
at the end of the season. And I think it's just the what if. We know that Derek Carr is stuck with Chris Olave, or we did a few years ago, knew they were stuck together for a couple years. We're frothing at the mouth of having a MVP, a Super Bowl quarterback come in there, one of the best that we've ever thrown the ball, come in there with Garrett Wilson. It's just not happening. Like,
Yep.
and now we're seeing Devontae Adams potentially get traded there. Bye bye, Garrett Wilson. Like, just any breakout's gone this year. Elite breakout would be gone this year. And then once Rodgers is gone, now you're in that conundrum of when is he going to have a quarterback that can support that top three again? He's not Malik Neighbors.
I'm glad you brought up Devontae Adams because I wanted to add in that as well because I think I would prefer Devontae Adams go to the Saints because I don't think that hurts Olave's value. Because I've talked about it all off season too, right? I think I think that's a complementary piece to what Olave does. Like just because, and Olave's already still just getting 4 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown, right? That's not going to go away with adding Devontae Adams. That just helps the Saints.
Derek Carr had his shot. He does not get another shot at Devontae Adams. No. Give him to somebody better. I don't even know if he does better with the Jets. The Jets might be a bad place for him to land, but no, Derek Carr does not deserve Devontae Adams again.
You might not deserve him, but you might get him.
Oh God, they are not a Super Bowl contender.
Like I said too, and I'm still trying to manifest Higgins to the Cardinals. I'd like to see him on the other side of Marvin Harrison too. They just need
I
another.
wanted them to lose so bad to the Panthers.
So it's just one of those. It's interesting to see how that whole wide receiver class is turning out. So it was supposed to be the next big one. So hopefully they start turning it around. But Jameson Williams is starting to finally pop off a little bit, and it's the wide receiver classes of the last 4 years have been very interesting. And I think that might be one of the reasons it's kind of like I'm not feeling like burnt out of fantasy, right? But it just seems like the scores this year, you're either scoring, well, you have one team scoring 150 and then everyone else is kind of battling out between 90s and 80s and 70s and 110s. And it's like, man, 3 years ago, everyone's scoring 110 and now I'm winning games at 110. So.
Yeah, it's very bizarre as far as the season, just the scoring overall across the league, how we're seeing that power shift, that dynamic. We've been beating the drum for the last 2-3 years. Wide receivers,
Yep.
or at least, I mean, Dynasty, definitely that's where you want to bulk up. Redraft, that's who you want to hit. Best ball, that is what it's built around. And all it was that little whisper of, but what if? And now we're seeing it. You know, we're seeing the two high safeties. Now they're running the crap out of the ball. Bell cow running backs, they're back. They're back, baby. There's people that play fantasy and don't even know what bell cow running backs are. They're like, we're seeing it again. It's amazing. And I think that's just the beauty. I've been playing fantasy for now, almost 20 years. You know, I've been watching football for, a little over 20 years. And
you're aging us, Brian.
I know. I was about to say 10, and I was like, no, I've been doing this way longer. And then I put that together, it made me feel even worse somehow. Gross. But yeah, it's cool to see the evolution of the game. And I keep trying to have these rules or oh yeah, this is what I always follow when I play fantasy. Nope. You better rewrite that book every 3 years. It's ridiculous.
And I think that's why I like Dynasty so much is I'm trying to build for the now, but also the future.
And it's making me hate Dynasty.
I mean, it does hate. It's kind of a moral dilemma because that's how you find out if you like it or hate it, right? Mm-hmm. I get to build a team, and I can't fire myself, so I'm the GM, baby. I got to learn how to figure this out because it's I exhausted all of my draft picks, so I'm stuck with this team unless I can trade some assets. So I'm going to be bad now and maybe good later if I hit on my draft picks, or do you just draft good and then pile on the draft pick? It's very interesting.
I may be getting fired from a few of my Dynasty leagues this year. I'll just be saying that. Somebody's been getting a little too crazy as the GM.
Speaking of firing, the tight end position is officially dead.
Dead. Luckily, it's dead for everybody.
Yeah, I think it is dead for everyone. What about like Mark Andrews? Let's talk about him a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I was chatting with somebody today actually. They were asking, polling looking for advice as far as like Mark Andrews and likely like what do I accept for him, in Dynasty?
Anything.
Honestly, don't move them. Their value, it's not going to get much lower than it is now. Not many people are going to be willing to take on, like he was trying to package both and move them both. I don't want to
Mhm.
take up two roster spots for something I may not come to fruition. I'll take a shot on one of them. Like right
Yeah.
now, I'm willing to buy Mark Andrews if I can get the price low enough. But like, you're not selling him. He's 29. He's still gonna he's gonna keep playing. He's not done. He's gonna get another contract. So Derrick Henry signed a 2-year contract. This team's identity could continue to mold, continue to change. You got to sit in it. It's gross, but you know, it's your pants. You got to sit in your pants, man.
I mean, I'm sitting on my shares of Mark Andrews. It's like, man, I'm sitting him for Cade Otton. I never
Nope,
thought
I'm
I'd
still
have to do
playing
that.
them.
And just it's interesting, like how is he gonna have his breakout game? I need to see it first, and then he's gonna have five stinkers, and then I'm gonna bench him, and then he's gonna have the breakout game. It's just the beauty of fantasy football. But
I love
yeah, it's
Mark
just I
Andrews.
don't know, like then you have Trey McBride injured, and then Evan Ingram
Sam
hasn't come
Laporta.
out, and Laporta's been lackluster because of Jameson Williams. So that's the
The end
second time
zone
I
targets that
yeah.
Laporta is not seeing this year is astounding. I'm pretty sure he's actually only had one end zone target this year.
So
Um,
do you go out and even like the backup tight end for Cincinnati, Eric All? He's getting 4 receptions a game right now and maybe 12, 18 yards. But if you're getting in a point and a half league, 4 catches adds up. Like,
oh, not enough though. I don't know. Like I don't hate him just
not
because
enough,
he is
but
young
it's more of
enough.
like it might
And
be an option going forward.
he was Iowa, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's one of the Iowa ones.
Okay, so I'd kick the tires there. Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
He's behind Gesicki, so the price may be right on that one. But in all honesty, I don't know if I'm really buying tight ends right now. If the price is dropping on Kincaid, McBride, or Laporta, I'd buy those three. Um,
I had a trade go through. I want to know your thoughts, and it was Isaiah Likely for Kyle Pitts straight up, and they just swapped. You think that's fair?
I don't think it's not fair. I guess is how I'm looking at it. Like I don't think you can sell like Likely's put up more points than
Yeah,
in one game than Pitts has put up in the last dozen.
last 2 years. I'm just kidding. But
Oh,
I had to talk down one of my buddies because I'm just like that doesn't really matter. It's just they're just swapping a player for a player, and it's not really. You might think of Pitts as a better player, but he's not at the moment, and especially in fantasy. So it's just
and he may be down the road, but right now he's clearly not producing anything. So it's not like,
yeah.
yeah, it's.
I call a
I
spade a spade every once in a while, you know. So
yeah, I think that's the part that like dynasty players don't get short sighted enough as far as looking at it. Like there, because I treat dynasty almost like redraft in a sense. Like I go into the season, I've got guys I like and guys I don't like, and if they're on my team, the guys I don't like, I mean, I pay attention to where the value sits that year. I'm not going to sell somebody at their lowest value, but I want to move on because I'm just not that. Like Zamir White.
oh yeah,
He was great to own last year. Going into this year was a guy I didn't want to own him. So, you ship him off.
yeah.
And I've played Dynasty very fluid. Like, I also love trades. Like, just like the addict. Like, just come on, give me some
Yeah.
more.
It's
Uh,
ice in my veins. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, man. I mean, hell, you and I have already swapped multiple players in Dynasty.
we have correct. Speaking of, I think one of those players that we have swapped, CMC, Achilles
It's
tendonitis.
true. I've
Is
not
this
got to play him yet. I'm excited to.
so? Is he? You're holding on to him still, even with this happening.
Yep. When players hit their rock bottom value, when they still have some glimmer of potential, I'm not selling them.
Yeah.
If it's down low enough and I drop him, I have to drop him. But at this point, I'm holding.
With kind of the research, and I agree with you on that, and just the outlook for CMC the rest of the year, dynasty wise. What do you think? Is he going to sneak into the top 10 running backs, even with missing 4, maybe 6 games? I,
I'm not even holding my breath to expect McCaffrey back this season for fantasy.
really? Wow.
If he comes back, he comes back. But at this point, I am mentally preparing my team to essentially not have McCaffrey. Even if he comes back, it could be several weeks that they spend ramping him up. Jordan Mason, if you have CMC, I hope you have him. I lucked out. Like I said, I traded with Cody, and luckily I had Jordan Mason there on the bench. That worked out for me. But if you're not in that predicament, I would make sure that you are not banking on it, because that would absolutely suck to have your dynasty team get all the way to the playoffs. You're banking on having CMC, and then all of a sudden he's just not there. And the trade deadline's passed. If for most leagues they're gonna have a trade deadline, so that's passed. And now you're gambling in the playoffs with the dynasty team. You don't want to do that unless you were a dark horse. If you're a dark horse that slipped in, let's go, baby. But if you have CMC, you expect it to contend.
Yeah, I agree. So it's pretty interesting. So let's move on to kind of like your biggest takeaways of week 3 and week 4. So I'll go first, and obviously he's been getting a lot of praise here in the last 2 weeks, and granted, and I'll pat myself on the back because I've always liked this guy, and it's because I'm biased. Jaden Daniels coming into his own. I mean, you have to bring up Cliff Kingsbury for sure.
Ugh, I guess.
You have to, in regards to his offense, and it's very college based. They're doing everything to make sure that Jaden Daniels feels comfortable, and that's obviously the right molding into player development. That's exactly what Bryce Young didn't get.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, and it's crazy to see from the Commanders, right? So he deserves some praise, and then just the running back position as a whole, you got to be feeling good right now. If you drafted Saquon Barkley maybe late first, and then Kyron Williams or something, because you're probably winning a lot of games at the moment, because they're just, if you're getting 2 of the bell cows, you're very happy.
I think the casual home fan, people that always just hit that running back drum, that saw the content, that they were like, oh my gosh, all these people are telling me to go wide receiver. They're like, yeah, we know way more. And that's the sad part of this whole thing. It's just how this ends up looking. It's just, it's wild that we had such, I feel like, an extreme turn between the stylization between the NFL last year and this year.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be kind of gradual, like how running backs were just the biggest thing, or the first off the boards, and then it gradually turned into wide receivers and quarterbacks with Superflex coming in. But it just completely dove in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now I need Brian to go back into the lab and do his analytics and see why that happened. Or did they just change their defenses already? So what's going to combat this now? And back and forth, or is it actually just preseason going down to 2-3 games?
I think that's going to be interesting. I'd love to, once we get through 6 weeks, kind of look at the 6-week correlated data and then look at weeks 3 through 6. So if that were our real week 1 through 4, what would we kind of be seeing? Because week 1 and 2 may be a complete outlier. Look at Deontay Johnson. He was a drop candidate after week 2 in some places, and he's been a top 10 wide receiver the last 2 weeks.
Yep. Got any highlights for us or no?
Probably just the big one is, kind of a piggyback of Jaden Daniels would be Malik Neighbors. So we had Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison, the consensus QB and wide receiver 1 in most dynasty mocks, and look who is blowing up. The other 2, Jaden Daniels, absolutely insane with the accuracy. 3 of the last teams he's played, we'll find out this next week. Really kind of step it up as far as the defense goes. But he's looked great, and then Malik Neighbors is making Daniel Jones hold a job. Daniel Jones could have been benched after week 1 if he didn't have Malik Neighbors. He is not good at all.
Yeah,
that's probably my biggest takeaway.
I was obviously this offseason and stuff, I was tough on Neighbors. I didn't think he would be this good right away.
Same.
He's definitely proven me wrong, and I'm all right with that because I have him in a lot of places, first of all. Second of all, it's nice just to see a little resurgence in a young player on a bad team. I don't want to watch any Giants games. Now I will because of Malik Neighbors, and he's using all of his opportunities to become that player to must-see TV.
Right.
So let's move on to the Dynasty Who's. I got a little bit more prevalent names this time, Brian, just because we did go down the rabbit hole, but we had Phil here. Love Phil. but I wanted to get real deep in the weeds with him because he talks a lot of the same players a lot, and that's just because that's just what redraft asked for, right? We have to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. So we're gonna do that again today. What are your thoughts on Keenan Allen? Are you buying, selling, holding? What are you thinking on Keenan Allen?
Keenan Allen's a hold. You can't sell him because there's no value to be had, and I'm definitely not buying him because I don't think Caleb Williams and this Bears offense is going to support much more than one wide receiver. And if anybody's going to be that wide receiver, it's going to be either DJ Moore or Odunze.
It was kind of telling when Odunze gets that touchdown, and Allen's been out, and then DJ Moore still didn't do anything. And you're like, is this just because of young guy and young guy connection or not? I'm worried about him. I'm trying. I mean, I'm holding him obviously because I still think I can get some value out of him in the
For
next
sure.
few weeks. But he is definitely on my sell high list. It's just more of a when is the window. I think
100%.
I think the window is going to be coming up here soon.
They do have a good, like, next 3, 4 games or 3 of the next 4 are set up really, really well for the wide receiver. So I don't hate the idea of buying into those players, but I'm not doing it because I don't have the stones.
It's also interesting who's going to be guarding Keenan Allen because the
Mm-hmm.
cornerback one you obviously have to put on DJ Moore. So is the second or even third guy going on Allen because he's going to beat a lot of those guys. And if Caleb Williams gets a lick of pocket presence or anything like that, he's going to find a wide open Keenan Allen, and that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So that sell high window might be getting up or rising very very soon here. Another guy on the list, one of your own. What are we doing with Michael Pittman?
Michael Pittman, I'm not buying into him because I wasn't really buying into him coming into this year. I thought his sell window was this past off season when he signed that contract. I don't know if his value would ever be higher than what it was at that point, just because he's never going to be a top 5 wide receiver. He can be a top 12. We have enough injuries usually hit the top guys, and just the volume he sees. I do think he could, flirt with that fringe wide receiver one, but no, I think AD Mitchell is too damn talented. I think he is going to finally get chemistry with Richardson at some point, and I think within the next couple of years, him and Downs should be running this team.
Yeah, you've been preaching Downs all off season, so I was surprised you just went 80 Mitchell there actually. But
Oh man, have you seen him out there? His
yeah, I
separation
have.
score.
Of course you'd bring that up, but
Oh.
it's and like I mean I'm not gonna try to like what's wrong with Richardson? Is it just his lack of gameplay? Because like
Colts are leading the way with drops, so let me just add that
okay,
caveat in there too.
but I bet he's leading the way in overthrows as well.
At least he's overthrow. At least he's throwing it deep. I guess that's my argument. There
Right.
is, if he's only going to complete a few passes, I'd rather than be deep down the field than 5-yard dinks.
Okay, I mean, just based off of how many games he's played, that was the one of the biggest different. Like I like A Rich's potential, I do, but I would be taking Jaden Daniels over him, and I have in every facet because of just games played. Jaden Daniels had 5 years as a starting quarterback in college in a pro style system, and now you're seeing it still here in the pros, and now Anthony Richardson still needs another half year to just figure it out. Like to fully read defenses, he needs a little bit more. And they're slowly doing it with Jaden Daniels too. Like I know it's a college playbook, I get it, but it's working. That's the biggest difference. Shane Steichen is we know he's a play caller with like complex things. I think it's just too simple it up for him a little bit.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't hate the challenge. Like, I don't know if you saw like the Tom Brady recently talking about. I mean, a lot of
Yep.
the crap coming out of his mouth is a little much, but recently talking about how a lot of these quarterbacks don't get an opportunity to actually learn, sit back and learn. So these
Yep.
coaches are kind of dumbing down the offense. And then we get the report recently that Deshaun Watson, that was kind of what Houston saw, that he worked well, but only because he worked the offense that they set forth for him. It was a little
Yep.
simpler, as what he was familiar with. So I guess that would be my fear with Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. I know it's working now, but Kyler worked there at the very beginning too. And we kind of saw the bumps and bruises go with that if, people figure it out after a while. So, I don't know. Through
With
4
Deshaun,
games, huh?
did they actually figure it out with Deshaun? Deshaun kind of just screwed himself.
Yeah, he did play pretty good this past week. 80-yard touchdown called back. Like it wasn't terrible, but I'm
I'm
not
just
saying he
saying,
was
like,
good.
like you say they done, but he was winning.
He
Winning,
was.
it doesn't matter, right? If they're winning, like,
This is true.
it's like, yeah, they can't learn these complex offenses. Well, the defense obviously isn't figuring out this simple offense either that we're running. So is
Yeah.
that more of a knock on the quarterback or on the defenses?
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that.
We'll move on to a very similar player, but Terry McLaurin. Is he is obviously the Michael Pittman of Washington Commanders, but does he see it just a little bit higher of a sell right now, or is he still in a holding pattern as well?
If I'm contending like going all in for it this year and I have him, I'm okay with keeping him, but I think I'd like to sell him.
Yeah.
I think the stock's starting to rise for him. He's an older wide receiver too. He
Yep.
still may give another relevant year next year, but I don't think we're ever going to see some huge explosive year. So if you can pull in some sort of first, I don't know, you think a late first would get that done?
Oh yeah, I'd be giving him away for a late first 10 times out
Well,
of
I
10.
mean, do you think somebody would pay a late first for him?
I hope so. Hopefully, one of his league mates, is either a Commanders fan or drunk.
Hey, and honestly, with this running back class, the
Yeah.
running backs, I wouldn't mind taking a couple seconds or like a second and a Jalen Polk, something like that.
Yeah, I would take that because I mean you can see Jalen Polk be getting some more run with that team, and he's got a touchdown now,
He's
and it
got a
just
nice
seems
ass
like
score too. I don't know if you
yeah,
saw, he's up there with AD Mitchell.
I didn't see it. I won't probably see it unless you bring it up. So I don't even know where to look for it. So his separation score is good, is what you're saying?
Yeah. That average separation score,
I do.
it's up there.
I lied because I do look at separation scores, and that's why we both don't like Pickens that much. But I like separation scores as an indicator of how your route running is, and I think that's one of the biggest things in a wide receiver that needs to happen. So, what are we doing with Aaron Rodgers?
What do you mean? What are you doing with him? Nobody's buying that guy.
I know no one's buying him, but is he a cut candidate?
I don't think he's a cut candidate. It gets I've lost in the playoffs too many times in dynasty leagues because I just ran out of quarterbacks. You get to the end of the season, like I said, you can't trade. I want to have a couple backups there because I've seen Lamar go down or Trevor Lawrence, whoever it might be, and I've lost because of that, and that hurts. So give me Aaron Rodgers. There's a heartbeat there. Maybe not but give him
It's
to me.
it's interesting you brought that up too because I would probably classify that as a Daniel Jones too. I had a league where someone dropped Daniel Jones, and I'm like, I have Will Levis, Matt Stafford, and Tua on the IR, and now Levis is out too. So it's like, do I play Matt Stafford or Daniel Jones? I think I'm going to probably go Daniel Jones just because of the rushing upside. I know Matt Stafford's not going to run, so it's been pretty rough out there for that team. But again, the Vikings, help supplant that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Next guy on the list, he's an interesting one to me, and I think he's actually a buy candidate because of just the volume we've been seeing from him, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson. Who would have thought like Neighbors having 14 targets, and then another guy on that team has 10 plus targets, and he's been averaging. I don't know his actual average, but like during the Vikings game, he had 8 targets. A few other games, he's been close to 10 multiple weeks.
Is this year 3 for him?
This is year 3, but he got injured last year, so he barely played.
It was him, Jalen Hyatt, and now Neighbors, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I was trying to remember if he was before Jalen Hyatt or not.
Before Jalen Hyatt. Yep, 1 year.
And then who do we have right before that? The guy that went to the Chiefs. Oh my God, what's his name?
Tony.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney.
Yep.
God, they've had so many misses. They deserve Neighbors. They deserve Neighbors.
They deserve Neighbors, and I think they deserve a breakout of Robinson because I mean he's not Neighbors. We know this.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to be. Luckily,
he doesn't have to be. He can be that guy that's doing all the wide receiver screens, and he has 10 catches for 80 yards. So it's like if you're PPR Dynasty League, you better be getting Wandale on your roster. But even in half PPR, like it's still he might need be tight end or touchdown dependent, but he's an obviously if you're kind of light on the wide receivers, he's an obvious bye week play.
For sure.
And on light leagues, I mean 12-team leagues with 3 wide receiver and 2 flex spots. Wide receiver gets thin, and if he's on the waiver wire, I'm buying him. And I'm trying to get him. What do you think? A second round pick would probably get him, huh? Would you give up a second round pick for a Wandale, knowing what's coming in this draft?
I don't know if I would actually.
What if
I think that's the price, but I don't know if I'm paying it.
See, and now we're going to get into a little scummy dynasty real quick here. What if I combat the second that you want with 2/3, one this year and one next?
Nah. Thirds don't get my rocks rolling.
Me either, but man, do people do that move? Stop doing that move. It doesn't work
right.
ever.
I'll give you 2, but we're going to move back around.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
a year. No.
So these next 2 guys are dealing with some injuries / maybe not to them, but to their team. What are we doing with Jalen Waddle?
Oh, I'm buying Jalen Waddle.
Are you still?
I'm buying Jalen Waddle. I think, McDaniel just signed his extension. He's going to be there a bit. We don't know if Tua or Tyreek is there. And even if he's not, we've seen the 2 of them coexist with Tua and both be top 10 options, or top 14 options, whatever it was. I'm okay with it. And Jalen Waddle, you're not going to get much lower. He signed his extension. Check. We've seen the talent. We've seen him do it before. Check. And, I either want a coach or a quarterback. Can't necessarily always have both, but I know we've got one. I don't know which one it is, but I know we've got one.
Yeah, and I think you can get him pretty low because I think it's the lowest you're going to get him raised right now.
You think somebody give him up for 2 seconds?
Probably, if they're desperate. Right now, if they think they're a contending team and they need something, or if
Derrick Henry.
Oh, I'm giving him. If I need a running back or I'm contending and they traded me Derrick Henry for Jalen Waddle, I'd do it.
James Conner in a second.
It's a lot closer, but I would.
Rule out Joe Mixon in a second.
100%, yeah. I know Mixon is the bell cow. It's just more of James Conner. I know also gets injured. That's why it scared me a little bit more than Joe Mixon, even though Joe Mixon is out at the moment because of an injury. But that's my top. I like Mixon better than Conner.
I think with Waddle hurt, he's obviously not season-ending injury, but guys like him, guys like Rashee Rice, if you are not contending this year, go buy them because they're probably on contending teams and they are useless to that team as of right now.
They are.
Going forward in the future, absolutely they're useful, but they don't see that. They're looking at that chip. You need to look past the chip because that chip's not for you. Go buy these players. Like last year, I had a team where I was completely tanking. I bought I bought Kyler, and then I flipped Kyler for Joe Burrow. I also bought Mark Andrews. That one was a bust now, but you get what I'm saying. I bought all of these hurt players at a discount because they were just sitting on IR, and that team's pretty banging right now. I got Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams with the number 1 and number 3 pick.
What about the next guy on the list, Justin Herbert? You think you can buy him low?
I think he's on that list as well. He's on that. He's not going to win anybody anything this year, so go buy him because his future's bright. He's got Harbaugh. Harbaugh's locked in for several years. Ladd McConkey looks like he's going to be a good piece for Justin Herbert. One of his 3 pieces he's going to inevitably have at some point once we get Johnston and Palmer out of there. But yeah, Herbert's a buy low for me.
So I wouldn't do it straight up, but is there a package that the Trevor Lawrence owner can get you to get him, swap them with some picks? What does Trevor Lawrence in 2 seconds get you Justin Herbert?
I don't know that I wouldn't trade down from Herbert to Trevor Lawrence.
I wouldn't either, but if I was the Trevor Lawrence, I'm trying to make something happen.
I would.
Would you be desperate enough to do the swap with a first?
See, I think you could catch like a contending team and maybe swap out like a Baker Mayfield. If I've got Baker and I'm a like borderline rebuilding or I'm not competing this year, I think you could trade Baker for Herbert. Maybe have to give up a little something something, but I think that's kind of the trade I'd be looking at. Like one of these overperformers. Sam Darnold, I think you're gonna have to pay a little bit more, but
Yeah.
like a Sam Darnold who's performing well. Trying to think of the other guy that's come out of nowhere at the top. Derek Carr's kind of cooled off, so maybe not necessarily him.
I mean, and so now I'm thinking on the Trevor Lawrence front. So Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. So if I was the Trevor Lawrence, but do you still believe in Trevor Lawrence long term? Slash, I'm just gonna I can live with Deshaun Watson in regards to my team sucking this year, and I can try to get him.
I guess if I'm a contender, I don't want Trevor Lawrence, but if I'm rebuilding, I'm willing to take the shot. They just paid him. He's got a whole bunch of guaranteed money, so he's going to be there a bit.
Perfect. Let's go back to actually, are they bell cows? What about Aaron Jones?
If I can get him, if I'm a contender and he's just sitting there on a team that's like wavering, yeah, I'll pay for him.
Like we know he's going to get
only a second.
I still think we're in the pattern. Like there's a resurgence in running backs right now, right? But I still think the holding pattern is there's never going to, except for CMC, is there a running back? CMC and Saquon. After that, are you selling anyone for a first? Brees and Bijan don't seem to be on teams right now that are utilizing them as bell cows. I think Bijan may be a little bit closer because of the resurgence of Braylon Allen, but it's just, are they saving them for the back half of the season? But I need wins now, not at the end of the season.
That's the thing. Those are the guys you would want to buy, are those two, but they are not league winning right now anyway. So, Aaron Jones, I'm willing to buy. I just don't know what I'd buy for him. I think I'd like
the next one. We can just pair him into this is Kyron Williams, because we both. I've been telling him to sell the whole time. I've been trying to sell him for a year and a half now because of the McVay effect. But it's more of a, if you think you're on the verge of a championship and he can be your RB2, what are you willing to give up for him?
Not as much as that person selling him is going to want. I'm holding him. I think he's the best value on your team. Selling him, you're not going to get what he's going to return. As far what you would get in return isn't going to be what he's going to give you on the field as far as points. And I don't want to buy him because people know that, So I think you're in that limbo of whoever fell into him, probably off the waiver wire last summer or whenever it was.
So you need someone with a team of like Joe Mixon and CMC, and they're kind of chomping at the bit, and then they're starting Chuba as their RB1 right now.
Yeah, I think you might be able to flex a one out of them if they're pushing hard for that overall 112.
Realistically, do you think the Kyron owners think he's worth a one? Because I don't. I'm a Kyron owner, and I've been trying to get a second, and I can't get a deal done.
I think he's worth a contending one. I think he's worth that to a contender. Okay. Because look what he's doing on the field.
You're right.
And that's the hard part. That's what he's worth. But again, it's not what people are wanting to buy. Because this might be the last year for Kyron. You might get one more year. His contract says you might get one more year. But the Rams are not going to spend money on another running back. They tried that. Or maybe they're willing to do it because they know they're just going to cut bait and move on. But they're not going to pay him.
They need to pay quarterback here soon anyways. So, because how long is Stafford staying? So.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be weird. Unless they get Bryce Young.
Yeah. Let's end the pod with that. If the Panthers are trying to trade him, where do you want to see him go?
Probably, honestly, the Rams, I think, are one of the best bets because he could continue to sit behind Stafford, and I think you need somebody brilliant to do it. So it would need to be going to the Niners.
What about I think the Dolphins are a nice choice just because even if Tua comes back, he can still sit behind, but then he's learning from someone.
Because the Dolphins are in a pickle. They just paid Tua, and I'm already seeing mock drafts of them taking a quarterback
I don't think
in the
so.
first.
Yeah.
And now I actually had them as one of my hot takes, them taking a quarterback in the 2024 draft. Like
Okay.
later, if like Bo
Yeah.
Nix or somebody of them fell. I thought that made complete sense, but they hadn't paid Tua at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I like. Obviously, we've seen Cleveland would be good too. I still think Miami might be the best just because of what Tua has said about Mike McDaniel, right? Because with Flores, Flores literally killed Tua
Right?
with his confidence.
He's like, McDaniels tells bad quarterbacks that they're good, so I want to go there.
Exactly. But then, like, they actually kind of produce, like maybe not fantasy wise, but their team's good with him. So it's more along the lines of Bryce Young needs a confidence boost, and Mike McDaniels is the guy to do it. I don't think Stefanski could do that. I can't hear you, Brian.
Yeah, I think he's in that like quality realm. Sorry, my AirPod died. I think. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think it would be probably Cleveland, Miami, and L.A. Rams for me would be the three that made the most sense.
What would you hate him going to? Personally, me, the Giants or the Jets. I'd hate that.
I was literally about to say the Jets or the Giants. Yeah, I was like, all right, bad franchises with quarterbacks. Who's been
So a sneaky one that
Pittsburgh
might be is Seattle.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Even though I like Howell, I really like Howell after Smith. I really do. I think it just sets up. They're kind of similar, Smith and Howell. But what if they got Bryce Young? I think that could be intriguing because he has a lot of Russell Wilson tendencies, and I know Pete Carroll's not there. Yeah, that's why. I think his accuracy and the way he thinks as a quarterback is really Russell Wilson-esque. He's very smart, except for
and there's plenty of weapons there too.
Exactly. So I think that'd be a nice spot. But other than that, I got nothing else on the dock. What about you, Brian? Where can we find you at? I can see you everywhere. So where is that?
You're looking for my written work. It will be on the QB list, football.pitcherlist.com. Majority of my video stuff will be on the Fantasy Football Advice Network YouTube page and right here on the Dynasty Pros YouTube page. And if you're looking for more podcasts of me, Too Much Fantasy Football, because at @too_much_Brian on Twitter, that's just what I do. I'm a little too much. Cody, what you got for us? Where you at?
I'm right here, Dynasty Pros. That's where I'm at. That's where I'll be. If someone else wants to give me or pay me something, I mean, I'll think about it. But
I'll think about it. He's got like letters on letters he's got to go through, but eventually we'll figure it out. He'll make his way through there and give you an answer, folks. But until next time, we appreciate everybody coming in here, listening. Push the buttons, like, subscribe. You already did, but